You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're getting inside our heads in FAB Facts.
We're going on a bug hunt in the Randomiser.
and James Swallow takes a page from our book
Naughty, naughty. That's all coming up in Pod 217.
of the literary Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello, Richard and James.
Hello, I'm Jamie Anderson. That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Are we going with Twitter names, are we?
It seems like it, doesn't it? Yes, that's a bit odd.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, well, let's go
fine.
with it. Yeah, could work.
I'm one of the co-hosts of the Gerry Anderson podcast, as is that other bloke you're listening to.
That's true, yeah. Have been and always will be.
Yes, what, that bloke? Correct.
Yeah, no, the co-host of the Gerry Anderson podcast, I hope.
There's no way we could do it without you.
Right.
Much like we couldn't do it without Chris Dale. But today,
Yes.
rather than actually being here,
Yeah.
I've got
what's
a note
going
from
on?
Chris.
I did wonder, yeah.
And
What?
it doesn't make for great reading.
Oh, no, what have we done?
It says, Dear Richard and Jamie.
Oh, well, you got that
Interestingly,
right.
went with that,
Yeah, good.
Just to try and,
Yeah. Good, like it?
I think it's finally time.
Oh. Doesn't sound good.
This has all started to take its toll on me.
Oh, no. Oh, this is dreadful.
And I'm not sure I can keep up the pretense any longer.
What pretense?
I know.
What's going on?
He continues.
Right.
Continues. Every week,
Yes.
you tell the Podsterons that I am in the studio doing some strange activity.
That's true, yes, that is true. We do that. Well, you do specifically, Jamie, yes.
Yes. And I think it's time that we finally reveal
What?
that it's all a lie.
Oh, no! You can't do that! Chris!
I mean,
oh,
I don't know what he's talking about, because
shocking.
clearly he's not. I mean, he came in and wrote this letter and left it here earlier on, so Chris, I don't know what you're
Yes.
talking about. Anyway,
Wow.
please read this message on Pod 217 of the Gerry Anderson podcast. I think it's time
Right.
the Podsterons knew the truth.
Well, on that bombshell.
Well.
That's extraordinary.
Quite the bombshell.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay. Right, fine.
I wasn't expecting
Well,
that.
That's that then. No, quite. Right, I don't know quite where we go after that. It's
No,
like
I mean-
nothing is true.
Nothing is true. Interesting that you
Yeah.
bring that up.
That's odd,
Anyway,
isn't it?
yeah, how strange.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, at some point,
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but he'll do the randomizer. But allegedly, he never comes to the studio and he
No.
never actually
What, so-
is here
but
with
what,
us. So.
He's suggesting that he just sort of pre-records it and we just kind of drop it into the podcast later.
Well, that sounds ridiculous. As you can tell from the dogs barking, this is very much a live podcast.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
Yeah, well, hopefully, Chris will get over this fiction of not actually being here, and at some point, he will arrive
He'll
and do the
be here.
randomizer. But aside from the randomizer, there's loads of other
Yes.
stuff, and Richard James is going to
That's
tell
right.
you all about it right now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, remember last week I gave you a lovely tour of the museum and stopped off at the various points of interest that culminated in a list of things to expect in the Gerry Anderson podcast. Well, this week I'm going to rummage around in this bag because, here we go. Oh, yes, well, that's some newsy news coming up a little bit later on. Just put that to one side. Right, dig down here. Oh, yeah, there we are. Well, this is the randomizer. We know about that. I'll put that over there already. There we go. Now this is the second part of Jamie's interview with James Swallow that's coming up a little later on, so I'll put that to one side. And if I dig right to the bottom, there it is. Oh, that little kind of strange shaped thing.
Yeah.
Oh, ow. That little sharp That's Fab Facts. That'll be coming up in a moment. But then, of course, all this stuff here, look at all this I'm putting out the bag. That is all our Podsterons who've been getting in touch via email, podcast@gerryanderson.com, on our Facebook group, and also on our YouTube channel. And I shall be reading out the comments a little later on. Anyway, I've just got to put all this back in the bag, Jamie. So over to you.
Please do.
There we are. Yeah, just...
stuff that all back in. Anyway, all that's here, and Richard is here with his expert interjections throughout, and I'm here with, just a few words, I guess, at some point.
Yeah.
So, hello. Eric's just come to say hello as well.
Oh, bless. There he is. I've just, I've trodden on Fab Facts. I think I might have broken it.
Don't worry. I'll put it back together for you. Let me reassemble it for you in front of your eyes. It's this week's Fab Facts.
Curses!
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Here we go. Right, Richard James, you've not managed to break me Fab Facts at all.
No, not for want of trying.
They are well resilient.
Yes, okay.
And despite the fact that Eric, that's my dog, is licking my fingers currently, I'm about to flick through a book of Fab Facts. Richard's going to shout Fab at a random point, which will stop me flicking, and then I'll read a Fab Fact. Richard, are you ready?
Oh, go on then.
Eric, please stop licking me. Here we go.
Fab.
Mid-60s.
You carried on way after I finished.
I didn't know the time delay. Anywho, a while ago, I'm sure you remember, Richard, we spoke about the Scott Tracy puppet doing a stunt in the Thunderbirds episode End of the Road, remember? In place of the guest character Eddie Houseman. Today's Fab Fact has also got to do with puppets performing their own stunts, but puppet stunts, in this case, gone wrong.
Uh-oh.
Now, keen-eyed Thunderbirds viewers may have noticed that in the episode Terror in New York City, the characters of reporter Ned Cook and his cameraman Joe are suddenly portrayed by different puppets during the shot where they both fall into the subsidence during the Empire State Building move. In that shot of them falling down the rock face, Joe is now being played by the puppet that played Tintin's fellow passenger on the Fire Flash in Trapped in the Sky, whilst Ned almost, and I'm stressing almost when we're not absolutely certain, looks like he might be a rewigged Troy Tempest.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
interesting.
Why did they swap the puppets out for that shot? Well, for much the same reason Scott doubled for Eddie Houseman. It was to prevent the Ned and Joe puppets from being damaged in the fall. And it was a good thing they did, because Joe's stunt double smashes his face on the way down, causing part of the back of his head to fall off, exposing the puppet's head's internal mechanisms. Creepy.
You're joking. Oh.
Yeah. Now, this wasn't damage caused by the fall as such, because the heads were actually built with detachable sections on the backs of their skulls to allow puppeteers to get in case they needed to do repairs on the mechanism. These sections were held in place by magnets, and the join was then covered by the puppet's hair, much like on the back of my head. So in the case of the stunt Joe, it was the sheer force of the impact of his head hitting the rocks that sends the detachable part of the skull spinning out of shot. But still, quite dark when you think about that as a visual.
It really is, yes.
There is another example of this in the Joe 90 episode Child of the Sun God, when Joe confronts that episode's criminal mastermind, who's played by none other than former Spectrum officer Captain Oka. Oka subsequently falls to his death in the ensuing shootout, as only fair, and as the puppet falls, his head impacts with the rock on the cliff face, and the head plate is knocked off once again. But because the shot is a bit darker and Oka's a bit further away from the camera than Stunt Joe was, it almost looks like he loses his toupee during the fall rather than the piece of his skull. So that's nice, isn't it? Now, we think, more emphasis there, we think that earlier puppets may have used hinges rather than magnets at the back of the skull, as there's an image of Mike Mercury standing next to a guest puppet of Maxie from the supercar episode The White Line, where the back of Maxie's skull opens on a hinge to reveal the inside. So it's quite an unsettling image, though, as it almost looks like Maxie is sitting in a barber's chair and Mike Mercury is some kind of mad barber who cuts open his customers' heads. Anyway, we should have saved this Fab Fact for Halloween, really, shouldn't we?
Yes, we really should, absolutely. A little bit early with this one, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's grim, isn't it? But these things happen. And I guess they thought, the speed of the shot, the kiddies aren't going to be watching the telly going, oh my God, the back of his head. It's
That's
just
right.
left up to grown men 50 years later to point these things out instead.
Yeah, well, that's creepy. I'm not sure I like that at all. It does remind me rather of Rob Thurtle as a character from Space Precinct. I think it was Joe Moore in the episode Body and Soul. And he has a toupee fitted. He was a Tarn with a toupee. And they reshot a scene several times because Rob had the great idea of, can I run down the corridor and flap my head around so that the toupee is very obvious, which they did. And it was hilarious.
With hilarious consequences, as they say.
Exactly. That's
brilliant.
Right, yeah. Not quite as upsetting as a hinged piece of someone's skull flying off as they fall out of shot.
Yep. Well, sometimes skull flaps fall off, so that's life.
True.
That's life of a puppet.
Right.
So,
Okay.
on that note, I think that brings us to the end of this week's
Skull
Fact. Oh, what? You could have had Flat Fact, and you went for Skull
Why
Fact.
didn't I think of that? Why
I
didn't I
even
think
said
of
flap
that?
at the end to try and get you to say it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel like I've let everybody down.
You have. You've let yourself down. You've let Mitch the monkey down. You've let Joe 90
I have, it's
down.
true.
Oh, well, that's fine.
I know. No, that's all right. Yeah, get away with that. Well, yeah, that was great fun. Thanks for that. Excellent
Was it?
Halloweenish,
Was it really?
spooky Fab Fact. Yeah. Now, time to head on over to our email sack. Because this
Ooh,
one's
yes,
from Robert
please.
Meakin, who says, Dear sir, my name is Robert Meakin. I've been a fan of your dad's work since I was a kid. I watched a lot of Stingray, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet and more growing up, and I still watch/love them to this day. I had an idea yesterday that I thought you might be interested in. A while back, I got acquainted with the World Immersive Adventure Theatre Interactive Adventures, where the audience are a part of the story and interact with the characters and props. I've played 2 so far. Last year I did Doctor Who Time Fracture, and this weekend, just gone, me and my sibling did the Tomb Raider live experience, and we had loads of fun. And it got me thinking, what if one of Gerry Anderson's shows got an immersive adventure story for people to play along with, e.g. Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons? People could get the opportunity to interact with their favourite Spectrum characters, Captain Scarlet, Captain Blue and Colonel White, go on a mission to stop the Mysterons, drive the Spectrum pursuit vehicle and more. Hope you like this idea. Please share this on your podcast and ask what fans think, and please let me know what you think of the idea. Thanks so much for your time and good luck with future projects. Yours faithfully, big Gerry Anderson fan, Robert Meakin.
Well, big Gerry Anderson fan, Robert Meakin. It's certainly been discussed before at some length, and if you remember, some years ago there was a threat of an interactive Thunderbirds thing called Beyond the Horizon, something like that, which sadly never came to pass. But I think it would be great, and it has been discussed multiple times with multiple people in multiple countries even. Hasn't yet happened, but never say never. But I would be interested in what Podsterons would like to interactively experience in the world of Anderson.
Yeah, that's great. Perhaps you could sort of have a bit of a mashup and have different zones for all the different shows sort of brought together somehow. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yes.
You've got to have a
like
Thunderbirds rescue somehow, haven't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. It could be very, very exciting. Get to it, Richard. Get your DIY gear out and start building it.
Okay, yeah. I'll do that. Samuel Erskine says, Hi, Jamie. I hope you're well and keeping cool in this heat. I just thought of something that might be good for the Gerry Anderson podcast. I watched Lightyear last night, a new Pixar film about Buzz Lightyear. This is not a spoiler, but his spaceship is called XL1, and he has a few, and it goes up to XL15. Now, they don't say it, but I think this is defo a nod to Fireball XL5. I think the launch sequence is a little nod too. There's a behind-the-scenes feature about making the film on Disney+, and they talk a lot about design and influence on the character. As the original creators of Toy Story would have been children of the 60s, I really do think that Woody is influenced by Tex Tucker from Four Feather Falls, and Buzz Lightyear is influenced by Steve Zodiac in Fireball XL5. I still think this is the case as the popularity of westerns switched to space adventures as the space race developed in the 60s. Even though Toy Story is all in the 90s, I still think it's all about the creator's childhood in the 60s, and that your dad's legacy continues to inspire artists and young audiences today. Just wanted to let you know if it's something for a Fab Fact or for the podcast. Thanks from Samuel Erskine.
Thanks, Samuel. Yes, I think it is something for the podcast, which is right, because Richard just read it.
Yeah.
I love the idea that these influences could all be there, and it makes perfect sense. I just wish one of them would come out and say it.
Yeah, I know.
But I suppose they risk copyright goblins getting them, if that's the case.
Yeah, true.
So,
That's right.
but yeah, nice spot.
Yeah. Alec says, Dear Jamie and or Richard, I hate it when people assume the puppets... here we go. Some more Anderongs for you, Jamie.
lovely.
I hate it when people assume the puppets on Thunderbirds and its neighbouring shows were made out of wood, when in fact it's plasticine and fiberglass. Furthermore, I hate it when people refuse to watch the show just because it's made with puppets. That's not sufficient enough criteria for reviewing a piece of media. Also, just a suggestion, but maybe you should change the name from Anderongs to Anderroom 101, a reference to the show Room 101 by Alex.
Anderroom,
So you even got that wrong.
101? I think that's an Anderong in itself. Come on.
That's hilarious. Thanks for that, Alex. Dean has rushed in rather excitedly and says, Chaps, I have to say I really enjoyed the free Stingray preview from Anything Could Happen in the podcast this week. Nice little story, great reading and well put together. But then I got to wonder, was it really free? Have we entered into some form of contract? Are we somehow now obligated to buy it when it comes out? I guess what I'm asking is, did we really just get an episode of a Supermarionation show with no strings attached? Cheers, Dean.
All that build-up, Dean, for a terrible joke at the end.
It's true.
Like you've taken a leaf out of the Gerry Anderson podcast book there.
Well, hey. Lots of people seem to enjoy the excerpt from Anything Can Happen in a couple of weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the podcast. Now, this is from Mark Perkins, who says, Hi, Podcats, which I rather like. He says, during the end game of Boris's time at number 10, here we go, politics again. But still another Anderong. He says, as speculation mounted about his future, one political reporter said on the TV news, live from Downing Street, as they say in Thunderbirds, anything can happen in the next 24 hours. Yeah! Says Mark. How could she be more Anderong than that? It's terrible, isn't it?
That is pretty bad. Oh,
pretty
dear.
poor. Steve Beresford got in touch to say Anderongs, when people attempt an impression of the marionettes walking. Also, he says, with podcast anachrony and letters from words thing, what about PBR? Podcast, broadcast and received.
Nice.
PBR. Yeah.
Nice.
Podcast, broadcast and received.
I almost came up with something then, but then I realised that the acronym was
rude?
a rude word, so I can't say it now.
Great. Well, if you have any cleaner acronyms that we could safely use on the podcast, do let us know at podcast@gerryanderson.com. And we also want to hear your Anderongs. What do people get wrong about Gerry Anderson shows that really annoy you? Let us know. Podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I'll read it out next time.
Brilliant. Okay. Still laughing at my rude acronym.
Great.
Anyway,
one day we'll know.
Should we have some Gerry Anderson news?
Oh, yes. Is it that time?
It is. Let's get our serious faces and our serious hats on now for the Gerry Anderson news.
Okay. Ready when you are.
Yes, it's a very serious... is it very serious? It's just a Gerry Anderson news, isn't it?
I don't know, is it?
News,
it's just the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of serious.
Okay.
Newsy news.
All right, here we go then. Okay, let's start with something Space 1990. Yeah. The Space 1999 Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual Special Edition from last year had a special patch and a poster that came with it. Now, we've been doing a bit of a stock take in the warehouse, and we have discovered 60, that's 60, not 16, 60 of these patches and posters, and we would like to make them available to you this week. So on Wednesday the 10th of August, we will be releasing a Moonbase Alpha poster and patch bundle on the Gerry Anderson store, and you can grab it there, but I suspect they'll fly out pretty quick. It's a lovely poster, very kind of inspirational, aspirational poster that would have been used to welcome recruits of Moonbase Alpha. So yeah, a nice little thing there if you're a Space 1999 collector.
Nice.
Did you know that Tuesday the 9th is National Book Lovers Day? Mm-hmm. Well, now you do. So we'll be sharing all of the various books that we've released over the last little while with you across the day on Tuesday. So do grab some if you want. There'll be a couple of deals on there, including, I think we've got some very limited stock of Jo Marie Verber's books, just 2 of them though, and they'll be on the store and across our social medias on Tuesday. on Friday this week, Friday the 12th, it's John Bluthel's birthday.
Oh, exciting.
Best known to Anderson fans, probably for his work on Fireball XL5, but also possibly for his work on The Vicar of Dibley, a non-Anderson show there. Now, Thunderbirds Danger Zone, the card game, is coming up very, very soon and will be released later on this month. But, Podsteron, we need you. Ooh. We want to get these games out in front of as many people as possible. So if you are a board gamer, a card gamer, or you have a local game store or a cult TV model gaming shop near you, especially independent ones, please do pop along and tell them about Danger Zone. You are on a secret international rescue mission. Well, it's not secret now because I've just put it on the podcast, obviously. But it would really help us if you go out there and spread the word. The game is great. Andrew Harmon, who's worked on it, has done an amazing job, and I think everyone's going to really enjoy this. And it's a way to kind of enter the classic world of Thunderbirds in a new way, which is always something nice to do. So there you go. Danger Zone. You can get to the product page, ander.sn/Danger Zone. That's andr.sn/Danger Zone. And finally, if you are looking to get hold of Operation Sabre, that's the new Captain Scarlet graphic novel, we have just 50 copies remaining at the Gerry Anderson store, so I'm expecting them to be sold out fairly shortly. I don't know if we'll do a reprint run. We may do, but I can't guarantee it right now. So if it's something you've been holding off grabbing, then, go grab it now.
Yep, got mine.
There is some amazing stuff coming up through the end of August, September, October and beyond, and I know you are just going to love some of the stuff that we've got around the corner. Richard's working away on a few things too. There's just some great stuff coming for all Ander fans, so we look forward to telling you all about those in due course, Podsterons. Anyway, that'll do it for now. That's the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Very serious news.
It wasn't serious. I mean, not that serious.
No, it wasn't serious.
Anyway.
No, it wasn't serious at all, really. No, I don't know why we said it. There we are. Anyway, just a quick reminder, having come out of the news, that you're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast, and you can subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. You can leave us a nice review or a rating, give us 5 stars, and we'll be your friends forever. And you can also copy the link to all your socials and let your friends know what you're listening to, and they might join in the fun too. Now, talk about joining in the fun.
Always.
We know, don't we, that the Podsterons have their very own Facebook group, the Gerry Anderson Podcast Official Listeners Facebook group, and it's full of all sorts of lovely people doing lovely things and posting things like this. Mark Perkins, who says, just got back from a dog walk listening to the latest pod. And as I was listening to Nick Briggs, images clearly came to mind from when I read one of the Stingray annuals, the second one in fact, so I thought I'd share some pictures, and he did. There were no DVDs or streaming in the 60s, so all these stories were as real to me as the TV show, which is lovely, isn't it? And that's a real, I think that's shows how Nick really evoked the feeling of reading those annuals back in the 60s, bring them to life for an audio form today. Very special. Duncan Moss is delighted with his beautiful artwork presentation from the front of the new Spectrum comic, available at all good retail outlets. Artwork, he says, by the multi-talented Steve Pugh. Nice.
Yes. Nice work from Steve.
James Charles Munro says, a bit late, but I've gotten round to listening to Pod 215. I wasn't expecting my shopping list to be read out, but it's nice to know I'm funding Jamie's weekends. Yes, this was James's shopping list of Anderson audio, I think, mainly, and books that he'd ordered. A nice double bill of Stingray, and the annual story really follows some Stingray tropes. I'm thinking about aliens and Thunderbirds, he said, which was a conversation we had on FAB Facts a couple of weeks ago.
It was indeed.
I feel aliens like the rock snakes work, or the couple of alien life forms we see in Thunderbirds I Go, as they are just other life forms, not alien civilizations. In Terror from the Stars, I was expecting the aliens to be a hoax by the Hood, but I think they just work in the world of Thunderbirds, mostly due to some similarity to the Mysterons. And that's from James Munro. Yes, we were talking about how perhaps it felt odd when there were aliens in the Thunderbirds universe, whereas perhaps we don't question it in the Captain Scarlet universe.
Strange that, isn't it? Just different styles, different strokes.
That's right. Tim Boyce says, hello, I'm currently reading Peter Purvis's autobiography. Here's one I wrote earlier. And he was the editor with Deputy Editor Jane Goddard of a dog magazine in the 1990s. One section he wrote was Peter's Friends, where he interviewed other dog owners, including a certain Gerry Anderson. I don't know if Jamie knows anything about it, says Tim.
Weirdly, I recall a strange patch in the mid to late 1990s where there were lots of things about our home life in magazines, and
Right.
I definitely posed on my bed with my lovely old Whippet Jumble, pretending to draw. And there's a really nice photo of us that went out in something like Country Life, I think. So it may have been from that era. How strange.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex Pass has got in touch with some more Anderongs, the things that people get wrong about Gerry Anderson shows that really annoy you. He says, what about no one ever dies in Thunderbirds? Well, tell that to the poor guy who got shot 5 times at the start of The Man from MI5. And then he has further thoughts about Thunderbirds aliens. No aliens in the TV episodes, he says. But of course, we got Martian rock snakes in the Thunderbirds Are Go movie. 2 other alien menaces that really stick in my memory are the tentacled Venusian from the Solar Danger comic, mentioned in the podcast, plus the strange Cyclops creature from another strip story, Visitor from Space. So actually, the more we delve, the more we're finding aliens in Thunderbirds.
The more you get into the comics, there's all sorts of crazy stuff in there.
Yeah, sure. That's right. Kevin Trott. Now, I don't know if this is still current. Perhaps you can tell me, Jamie, when this podcast goes out. Kevin Trott says, heads up, anyone who doesn't already own them. Big Finish are having another warehouse clearance. All 3 series of Terrahawks and the Captain Scarlet 50th anniversary box set are reduced to crazy prices. Probably a couple of weeks old now, that news. But
well, unfortunately, it's ending the day of recording. So did you get that bargain? If not, I think we may have missed out. Soz.
There you go. And finally, Danny Hewson says, hi everyone, I've watched almost everything Anderson over the years, but I've never seen Fireball XL5, Supercar, 4 Feather Falls and The Secret Service. Well, I have BritBox now, and yesterday I started watching The Secret Service, and I have to say, I think it's brilliant. It's very high quality, just like Joe 90 and Captain Scarlet, so what a real shame it was never shown on TV at the time. Certainly not in the London and South East area, says Danny Hewson. I will now have to look at Supercar and try to get Fireball XL5. All the best from Danny. So it was rather regional, was it, Secret Service? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you made it to a couple of regions, I think. I'm not even sure it was repeated that much. So yeah, a lot of people didn't see it until very, very late on, often into the 70s or beyond.
Yeah. So if you're on Facebook, do head over to our official listeners Facebook group. There's a few questions to answer. They'll let you in and you can join in the fun.
You should go there.
That's it.
It's great.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
I'm just agreeing with you, absolutely. Now, James, would you like some interview stuff?
Yes, Jamie Anderson. Yes.
Do you know who it is?
Is it James Swallow?
You're very smart, aren't you? Yes, it is James Swallow. It's part 2 of our chat with James Swallow, talking about his stuff that snuck into some of his books, including some secret and references that you may not know, even if you are a James Swallow reader. So stand by for some of those things, because they will happen in the next half hour.
Hooray!
In terms of the kind of the wider Anderson canon then, so you got your handing down of Thunderbirds and Stingray, maybe Captain Scarlet too?
Yeah, a little bit too, yeah.
Yeah, and then you found UFO in Space 1999 yourself. Does your Anderson umbrella spread down as far as Supercar and Fireball XL5, or upward as far as Terrahawks, Space Precinct, and other shows like that?
Well, they were. The earlier stuff that was definitely sort of before my time. I mean, I do remember seeing some sort of reruns of Fireball, but that was at the time. Now it's kind of like, if it's in black and white, people aren't going to show reruns of it. So that kind of stuff didn't get seen. So I knew of those shows, but I'd never really experienced them directly. I remember watching some of Terrahawks when that was around. And Space Precinct as well. That was kind of, at the time, that was the sort of triumphant return of Gerry Anderson to television. And I actually was kind of partially, tangentially involved with Space Precinct. I worked on the official tie-in magazine that came out alongside that. Myself and a fellow writer, Peter J. Evans, we both worked on that. And I can remember we got unparalleled access to the production as well. We just talked to all of the sort of people working on the show and interviewing the cast and the special effects people, and they just kind of threw open the doors and said, "Yeah, come and take a look. Don't steal anything, don't get in the way of the camera, but you can pretty much watch the thing being put together." And that was a massively engaging experience for me. I've always been one of those people. I love to see how the sausage gets made. I love to see the nuts and bolts and the mechanics of it. So getting to watch that show being put together. That was the mid-90s there, and I was at a stage in my career at that point where I wanted to become a writer, and I was thinking about being a script writer. So I was watching all of that stuff and, just absorbing all of it, making mental notes about how the whole process worked to hopefully use that later on in my own sort of writing.
Amazing. So have you got any idea what was being shot then, or any people you remember from the visit?
I remember talking to Steve Begg. I remember having a lot of conversations with him.
Yeah. Bill Pearson, did you meet him?
Yes,
when you were on the
yes,
Model
Bill Pearson
Guys?
as well.
And then did you come to the creature kind of unit at Pinewood, or is that mostly at Shepperton you were?
It was I think we were it was Shepperton. We were at Shepperton mostly for that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember Peter did a lot of the actor interviews and stuff. I was fascinated by the guys in the model shop because, again, the tech and the hardware and the amazing sort of ability they had to kind of build stuff out of nothing. I remember they showed me a model they'd made of this massive skyscraper, and it was a collection of these kind of 1 pound milk jugs that they glued these things together, and they did a great shot where they kind of laid it down flat and ran a camera up along it to give the sense of kind of going up the side of this massive building.
Yeah.
And they built it out of this massive stack of milk jugs. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. And they said, oh yeah, we bought 200 of these milk jugs, and then we realized we had 200 lids. So we built another thing out of the 200 lids. And it's just like the incredible sort of sense of make, do, and mend, and and then these guys would take this stuff, these, common objects, and turn it into a really cool spaceship. And I just thought, I love the ingenuity of the work that they did on that show.
There was some very clever stuff, but that was all kind of really handed down, and they'd watched the shows before them and seen the way things were done, and people had sort of spanned both sets of shows, and Brian Johnson and Steve knew each other from various things, and that had come down from Derek, and I certainly remember Bill Pearson saying they built loads of stuff out of click bins, the little things where you press the lid to release the magnetic piece. So yeah, they did fantastic stuff. That must have been very cool, because I spent a huge amount of time as a kid on the set and around the kind of creature shop with the guys who were building the animatronics, and just a very cool show. So yeah, I'm glad you were able to be part of that.
Yeah, we were so disappointed in that it would have been great to see it kind of carry on for a second season.
Oh, I know, but yeah, you see, I always feel like Space Precinct should have been a bit more Blade Runner than it was. But they were, they were kind of being forced to, interestingly, to go for the family angle, and all that introduced stuff with Brogan's kids and his wife and all the scenes at home were forced by the distributor, as far as I know. So anyway, I could happily reminisce about Space Precinct for hours, but I won't, because there are definitely a lot of listeners who are less interested in Space Precinct. Are there any Anderson shows that you saw, or that looking back now you reflect on, that you did not like or were less impressed by?
I think Terrahawks wasn't really... I wasn't the market for Terrahawks.
Oh, James. Oh, you're picking on my favourite here.
I mean, not that I didn't like the show, but I felt like it wasn't pitched at me. I think I was kind of too old for it.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it thinking, yeah, this is for a younger age group for me. But again, cool ships. Really cool ships. I remember going to the toy fair that year, just before the show came out, to cover it for a magazine I was working for, and they had all of the toys laid out, and looking at them all and thinking, wow, these are really, really cool designs for vehicles and ships, and watching the show just to see the kind of the ships do their cool thing.
Yeah,
I did enjoy that, but I think tonally, I think the show was kind of not pitched at me at that point. I'd kind of outgrown that sort of thing.
Yeah. Fair. That's okay. We can forgive you that. Joe 90, dare I ask? I always pick on Joe because I'm not a fan, but Joe runs counter to the thing we were talking about earlier on, like with the main character being a kid. So that's why I asked. So what's your opinion on Joe 90, James?
Yeah, that was I have fond memories of that. I mean, that fantastic theme song, which was just, I remember, was like a staple of sci-fi conventions. Is that the Saturday night disco, someone would put the Joe 90 theme tune on, and the dance floor would fill of people just spinning. They put one guy in a chair in the middle of the room, and everybody would dance in a circle around him. It was just this kind of this mad sort of cultish experience of watching these fans do that. It's such fun. It
is really fun. I'm not a fan of Joe 90, but I love the music, and that doing the Joe 90 dance at the SF ball, I think, a few years ago is a very happy memory of mine, for sure.
Yeah, indeed. That's another iconic element about the Anderson shows as well. Is the music?
Yes.
Is something that's thematically unique.
Yep.
And so evocative as well. From everything from sort of like that kind of the opening Thunderbirds march, the pace of Joe 90, or the sort of like the crazy disco of the UFO theme. The drums and the bongos of Space 1999. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a character in and of itself, isn't it? The Barry Gray music in particular. I mean, do you think? Well, I mean, I suppose you have a not quite perfect example, but an example of the change in music, and you feel free to opine on the two seasons. But Series 1 versus Series 2 of Space 1999, lots of things change for sure. But you get the change from Barry to Derek Wadsworth. I mean, probably less of a problem for most fans than the change of characters and the Monster of the Week vibe. But do you think that a change in music changes the character of an Anderson show that significantly?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, you've got a great example there. Season 2 of Space 1999, in a lot of ways, feels much more disco than the first season did, for good or for ill. And the music reflects that. Whereas Barry stuff has a sort of seriousness to it. A great drama, I think, it comes out of his music. Whereas the Wadsworth stuff is much more sort of punchy, and it feels a bit more frothy. And it definitely kind of like, I think it signals that difference in the show. There's more colour in it, but it is frothy and it is lighter and perhaps not as good. Season 1 for me is always the season that I love the most.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that's the first season of Space 1999. I think it touches on that sort of 2001 sort of feel of it is slow and sometimes it is a bit ponderous and navel gazing, but it's serious in a way that is engaging, that asks big questions. That it's not it's a lightweight show at times, but underneath it there's always a kind of underlying seriousness about the situation the characters are in and the big questions that it asks. It's pretty cosmic, I think is the phrase I always come back with. It asks really big questions. And for a kid, in the 1970s, it played with my brain a little bit, and it asked me to think about things that I hadn't considered, about the nature of the universe and alien life and all that kind of stuff. I could feel my brain, my perception changing slightly when I would watch an episode of the show and go away thinking about it afterwards. It was much more than just kind of an hour of space adventure. It was, compelling story ideas.
Yeah, but compelling, but I think still grounded in a childhood fascination, right? It harks back to the opening line of our documentary about Dad, which is him being asked by his brother if you could fly in a straight line forever across the universe. Eventually you must come to the edge or the end and what's out there, and all that kind of fascination about looking out and beyond ourselves, which is strangely adult but also strangely childlike. And for me, I think so much of Dad's work has got those two things coming together as a cohesive whole, which is just such a nice element.
There's always a kind of an aspirational sense in it. There's not just forward looking, but kind of just sort of like a fascination with the unknown, a fascination with the kind of like what's beyond the next hill. What's the next achievement, the next thing. It's not the Anderson shows are not shows that are kind of happy with their lot, where they're just kind of, we're going to just tell a story in this box and we're going to do this. It's like, no, we're always pushing at the edges of things. Always, even in the shows that are aimed at a younger audience, there's always a sense of kind of like adventurousness, of just going a little bit further beyond. I think that comes back to the sort of the universal appeal of those stories.
Yeah. So are these elements of, being adventurous and looking beyond and aspiration, things that you have carried with you into your own work? I'm not saying this from a copyright lawyer's point of view, but just, has it been stuff that has inspired you in your own work?
Absolutely. the idea of the pace and of lots of stuff blowing up and cool vehicles, getting right down to the sort of like the granular level of it. You can definitely see that in my work. I love to write action-packed stories. I like to write page-turners. I love it when people read my stuff and they say, "Oh, I couldn't put it down. I had to just keep on reading." And that's the thing. I think if I'd done that, I've done my job. And that certainly is, I think, a lesson I've learned from the Anderson shows is to have that sort of compelling narrative, have your characters balancing on a knife edge, stuff blowing up all around them, but they come through kind of bloody but unbowed at the end of the story, and they remain true to who they are. And I think all of those themes and elements are definitely things I've pulled from having watched these shows in my youth. And I'm not afraid to say that I have occasionally dropped in the odd joke here and there. There's, in my most recent Mark Dane novel, In Fact, at the end of the story, the characters are hiding out on an island, which is called Drakios, which is that's the derivative name for Tracy. So just as a joke, it's a very deep nested gag there. I don't know if anybody's caught this gag. And I just thought Tracy Island, because that would be a fun joke to make. And then I thought, nobody's going to get it, so I just dropped in it. So there's a little nod to my love of Thunderbirds there.
That is a lovely little Easter egg, and I wonder if people have spotted that. Well, they will now. Now you've given it away. Are there any more? I mean, you don't have to give them away, but are there any other direct kind of Easter eggy little references or nods you think people might spot in your own work?
There's in one of my Star Trek Deep Space Nine novels, there's a Space 1999 reference that nobody's ever picked up.
Brilliant.
Which is where I'm just describing a spaceport, and I'm describing ships taking off, and I basically describe an Eagle transporter taking off. And no one has ever kind of like clued into like, were you talking about an Eagle transport? It's like, yes, absolutely, Because when I was writing that particular piece, I had the little toy on a shelf, and I just looked at it. I thought, I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to just describe that.
Amazing.
That because it's such an iconic ship, one of my favorite sci-fi spacecraft.
Yeah.
Just sort of drop that in there. So little things like that. Occasionally, I'll make the odd reference here or there.
Amazing. Oh, I'm really glad to hear it's kind of got a more general kind of influence over pacing and adventure, as well as those little Easter egg nods as well. If you could, and this is a very hypothetical question here, write something for one of the Anderson IPs, but only one, with no option of ever writing for another one ever again, which one would you choose? What would you like to do with it, and why?
That's a tough call, isn't it?
Because I like to be tough, James. I like to be tough.
It's such a smorgasbord of great franchises. My inner child immediately goes Thunderbirds, because that's the one that sort of that kind of put its imprint on me the first.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be a toss up between UFO probably or Space 1999. I think probably would be closer to that. That's the one I think. Looking at it as an adult. Looking at it from the point of view as I am now as a kind of seasoned writer, as the things that interest me and fascinate me.
Yeah.
I think that would be an interesting world to work in, because it's got such a great dramatic potential. And there's so many interesting elements there. You've got the core idea of these characters being separated from everything they know and just flung literally and figuratively into the unknown.
Yeah.
And the thing about Space 1999 is it is that, going back to what I said about being kind of cosmic, it is very alien and very unknown, and part of the DNA of that show is regular kind of ordinary poor humans, smart people and and clever and talented and adaptable people being put in environments and situations that they have absolutely no idea about how to handle, and then handling it, and I love that idea. I think that kind of connects with the idealized idea of what astronauts are, as these people who are regular folks who kind of go into the unknown, into the great beyond, and I think that tone, that thematic idea, I think is what makes that show really work, is that sort of humanness. One of my favorite characters in the show was Victor Bergman, who I missed so much in season 2, because I felt like he was the heart of that show. And I think, even though we got great characters in season 2 as well, I think that he was kind of sorely missed. And I always loved the scenes with him and John Koenig just kind of ruminating on the nature of it. I always think back to is it Black Sun, where he records that speech, we are mankind, come and seek us out, and it's that to me, that's one of my favorite kind of sci-fi speeches about being human is, that we've learned that we still have much to learn. And I think that's just such a great sentiment, and that's stuck with me for all these years from the 70s onwards.
Yeah. I think it is fertile ground, isn't it? Because you've got that intense, almost claustrophobic grouping of humans in the great, wide, unfathomable beyond and anything that might be out there. So the kind of the most human versus the least human on a canvas of the least human. So I could definitely see some scope there. Okay, well, I mean, never say never, James, right? Who knows? And it's always good to know your preference should the moment arise.
It's been a really good year for Space 1999 fans right now, actually. With not just the Big Finish stuff, but we've had those two great books we had. Was it Chris Bentley's Vault? The Vault, yeah. Which I just picked up very recently. The technical manual, which is just an absolute work of beauty, I have to say.
Yeah, Chris did a fantastic job with that. It's beautiful. All the Chris's on Space 1999, as it turns out. Yeah,
I treated myself to that actually as a Christmas present, and I was so excited about reading it. And then the most recent one was it David Hirchin, Robert Wood's book about the sort of the Space 1999 that we never saw, and that's on my to read pile as well. So looking forward to reading that.
It has been quite a good time for Space 1999 fans. You're right. Do you feel like there's anything missing other than new fiction, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see we did have for a while, right, with the Powers Media guys picking up the series and retelling those stories. I think it would just be nice to explore more of that world, to just carry on with those characters. And, we've got Big Finish doing great work with their sort of reimagining of it as well. Taking the best of what the old show is and then reimagining it through a kind of modern lens. I think that's great, because again, it's one of those ideas. It is timeless. You could easily mount a new version of that show right now, and make a compelling, exciting show. I'm currently watching. I don't know if you know the show For All Mankind on Apple TV, which is a near future science fiction show. This alternate timeline of space travel, and that feels to me almost like a kind of a distant cousin to Space 1999. If Apple TV can make a show like that, why couldn't we have a new iteration of Space 1999?
Absolutely, but would you set it in 1999 or would you move it forward in time?
Well, I think you'd have to. I remember on September the 13th, 1999, I was in Los Angeles at a Space 1999 convention. Which is like, if you're going to be anywhere, that's exactly the place to be.
Yeah. Well, on the moon, that would have been slightly better.
Except maybe on the moon would be cool, right? That's true, okay. And Martin Landau had recorded a little message for the event. And he said, what everybody has to realize now is from this point onwards, this show is now a period drama. Which I always thought was a great way to describe it. Yeah, set it, push the clock forward a little bit, set it maybe like 50, 100 years into the future. Call it Space 2050, 2100 or something like that. But you could still tell the same stories with the same characters. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely scope for it there, isn't there? James, what are you working on currently? And is there anything that might have a bit of a sci-fi nod that you can talk about that people might kind of be interested in from an Anderson point of view?
So the next project I'm working on is I'm just about to start cutting metal on my next standalone thriller, which hasn't been officially announced yet, so I can't say a lot more about that. Okay. And other than that, I've also been doing some work on the Tom Clancy franchise, which is so that's kind of very much sort of like high-tech techno thriller, Cold War sort of thing. So although it's not science fictional, it does, I think, come from the same sort of roots of the sort of classical, Cold War thriller, jet-age high-tech thrillers. I think there's definitely some of that in the sort of the Anderson DNA as well.
Yeah, so it's maybe got a Joe 90 meets Captain Scarlet kind of heart to it.
Yeah. That's
Awesome.
always, I mean, I didn't talk about Captain Scarlet. That's another one that I always found an interesting show because although it looks on the outside to be this sort of candy-coloured, a kid's show, it's very brightly lit and it's very sort of action-packed. But it's once you kind of peel that surface layer off, it's really quite dark.
Oh, yes. Just a bit.
And I've always wondered, why somebody hasn't come back and kind of done a Battlestar Galactica style dark and gritty reboot of Captain Scarlet because I think it's crying out for that.
Oh, I know. I mean, there's so much of the Anderson stuff that's crying out for that, but sadly, not always possible just to pick up things and do that with it. But again, never say never. We'll keep our fingers crossed very tightly. James, if people want to find you online, where may they do that?
Well, you can come to my official website, which is just jswallow.com, easy one to remember there. Or you can catch up with me on Twitter, it's @jmswallow. I post on there pretty much every day, trying to be witty and talking about my books. Happy to answer any questions or just chat about cool stuff.
Okay, well, particularly Anderson cool stuff, I should hope.
Absolutely.
Good, there you go. Well, Podsterons, give James a follow and ask him as many Anderson-related questions as you like. James, it's been really, really nice chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. And good luck with the next top secret thriller. Wink, wink.
Thank you, Jamie. And, keep up the good work, keeping the franchise and the flame alive.
Oh, well, we'll do our very best. Thanks very much. What a nice chat. Thank you, James. Lovely stuff
thanks,
there.
James. Yes.
It's a great little
Nice having
references.
him on.
Do go back and read his Deep Space Nine novel, wasn't it, with the eagle takeoff described in there, without calling it an eagle, of course. But you can go and follow James on Twitter @JMSwallow, and he has encouraged you at the end there to ask him questions and chat to him and say hello. So,
That's it.
maybe talk
Lovely.
to him about some Anderongs or suggest some stuff that he sneaks into his next novel, or go to jswallow.com, which is James's website. So that's that.
Lovely, great. Now, talking of websites, there's one that you might have heard of called YouTube.
I have.
Don't know if you're
I have
familiar
come
with
across
it.
it.
Yeah. Well, you might know then that Gerry Anderson has an official YouTube channel.
I am aware of that.
Yes, where you can find primers and Beyond Anderson documentaries about actors who've featured in various Gerry Anderson series. You can find free episodes of stuff, and you can find all sorts of technical things about the vehicles from Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet, all sorts of stuff. Well, anyway, people also comment beneath those videos. That's what I'm getting to, yeah? For example, underneath a recent one, Fab Facts, here we go back to aliens in Thunderbirds. Owen Webb says, I think the Thunderbirds universe gets aliens just right with the rock snakes, because given the late 21st century time period, it can justify being a little different from the reality of 1966 or 2022. Counting Captain Scarlet and Stingray as part of the same, one can argue that the Aquamphibians are in fact native to Earth, as far as I can tell, and the Mystrons work perfectly for advancing the presence of aliens after the Thunderbirds Are Go film established life on Mars. Yeah, thought it through, isn't he?
Very well thought through.
Yep, S. Morris 12 says, I'm all for an alien-free Thunderbirds universe, as even as a kid, I found the science for aliens rather contrived in UFO and Space 1999 and Captain Scarlet, where Thunderbirds had gone for a reasonable level of realism. Stolen Eyes said, well, I always considered Thunderbirds to be grounded and down-to-earth and a commentary on a possible future. At least in the world of international rescue, aliens were only limited to a single appearance. However, I sometimes wonder that if the second season of Thunderbirds had carried on production, we may possibly have seen more aliens in the show itself. On a similar theme, Menko Monty says, as a kid, I always assumed that Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet were set in the same universe, albeit at different times. So if aliens exist in one, then they must, ipso facto, and I said that, he didn't say it, exist in the other. And finally, Chris Parks, I always thought the hood didn't fit in properly with Thunderbirds. His mind control and glowing eyes seemed at odds with the realism of the rest of the show, which is a very good point.
I mean, there's no right, there's no wrong.
No, sure
There's
thing.
there's no under wrong here.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So yes, do comment on all the various videos that are posted on the official Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, and if they're interesting enough, I'll read them out.
And even if they're not, you might read them out. Now,
That's true, if I've got time to fill, yeah.
have you got to the end of your YouTube?
Yes,
Because it
I
is time
have.
for the randomizer.
Yes,
And
I know.
there's still no sign of Chris
What?
because allegedly
Oh, but
he's
he's-
never here.
Oh,
I've got the
right.
note here. However,
yeah.
I have noticed that it says PTO. And as we know in the world of Anderson acronyms, you must do whatever
What is that?
the acronym says.
Police telegram overseer?
Official?
What is that?
Over, or Oh,
Yeah.
it's please turn over.
Oh, please turn over. Of course it is.
Hang on. It says, only joking. Look on the desk.
What?
What is?
Only joking.
Hang on.
Desk. What, your
Let me just-
desk? What's that?
Yeah,
What is
hang
that?
on. Let me just have a
Yeah.
Oh my God, Chris!
What? What? What is it?
Well, he's here. He's been wearing a
Oh,
Zelda
look.
mask the whole time.
He has.
Posed himself very carefully, lying on my desk.
Ah, that's
what
why
a
we didn't
trick
see him.
to play, Chris. What a trick. So he was listening.
So he's here after
He was
all.
listening. Lucky we didn't say anything rude about him, eh?
This time, yeah.
Yeah, next time we will. Anyway,
Yeah.
he looks a bit clammy having been lying here all that time in that latex mask. Well, that'll teach you, Chris.
Oh.
You know, he's gone.
He hasn't got Joe 90 yet.
He might have Joe 90, yeah. In fact, keep your distance. Bit of social distancing here. Anyway, so there you go. Chris, who's been loitering in my office for the last 45 minutes or so, is now here to do the randomizer, thankfully. So he's going to press his big red
good.
button, having mopped his brow. Yes, there we go. It'll be a random episode of Random Gerry Anderson
All
Show.
is
He's
right
going to
with
say
the
some
world.
things. Everything's fine and wonderful. So over to you and your randomizer, Chris Dale. Naughty boy.
Lovely.
Freeman.
Oh, hello, Alec. Just wanted to let you know that today's episode is the Forever Beetle.
Well, when did you find this out?
Oh, just now, when we press the button.
Well, you know what it means, don't you?
Yes, no full introduction today, as it's quite a long episode. Still, sooner we get started, eh?
Right.
So, you'll introduce Space Precinct?
Leave that with me.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye, Alec. Yeah.
Bye. You and your computers.
So, after a run of, several weeks of very early episodes from the 60s shows, we now go to the 90s to one of the very last episodes of Space Precinct. Again, this is how the randomizer works. It's very random. This would have been, I guess, the last standalone episode filmed. I can't remember if this was filmed between The Fire Within and part 2 of Death Watch. I have a feeling that's right. And here we are in this laboratory place. Oh, what was it? Dexcorp, I think. And here's a security guard checking the place over. Everything seems fine except for that suspicious shadowy figure in black that's following him around. What we have in this case? It's a rather barely animated beetle. While our security guard friend is distracted with that, the guy in black, thumped him. And the guy who got thumped didn't seem especially bothered. Oh, here's an interesting shot. Some kind of shuttle bus approaching the space suburb.
A load of this.
Oh.
What is that?
It's a red dot tarantula. I traded Ralphie for it. Pretty orbital, huh?
It's really poisonous, Dad.
Oh,
I want that out of there.
tarantulas. Oh no, tarantulas are nice.
Can't get out of here. Oh, come on, Dad.
My sister used to have one. His name was Howard, and she had to feed him live locusts, and we'd never actually see him eat any of them. You'd put them in, and he would just sort of go up to them and stroke them. And by the next morning, all that was left was their heads. But he was quite an affectionate little tarantula. Anyway, my personal experiences of tarantulas mean nothing to the Forever Beetle, because Brogan's old friend has shown up.
Hey, Murph!
It's Murph! Murphy, Uncle Murph, or as Sally Brogan calls him,
What do you mean? I just came to see my old pal.
Extra weight looks good, man.
I love you too, Brogan. For the lady of the house.
the one I know I have to sweet-talk the most because she's gonna give me hell just for being here.
What's a guy got to do to get a little refreshment around here?
Oh, sorry, man. A beer okay?
Anything. Except
This is a very believable character to just blunder straight into the Brogan's household, and I think what sells it is the fact that all the actors seem really comfortable with him, the kids jumping all over him and such.
He can't stay.
It feels very real, and unfortunately even Sally's, typical
You say he can't stay.
downer attitude to everything Brogan related.
Staying.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I gotta move to.
We've all had this moment in families. Most of us.
Can't leave?
There's always that one
You can't leave.
family member who just shows up unannounced.
I can't believe I said that.
God. Yeah, it's now nighttime, they're in bed, and you can clearly see Sally's been thinking about this all day.
What, I get to be the bad guy?
That one act of kindness that she did, that will haunt her for the rest of her life.
Whatever you say.
Honey, give me a break.
And of course it's Brogan's fault. We're not even 5 minutes into the episode, and already it's all Brogan's fault.
Murphy's around. Look at us, we start arguing.
But even when he's not around, we're arguing.
First thing in the morning, maybe you'll understand.
And again, I stress, it's nothing against Nancy Paul. She's playing the character as written, and the character as written is unfortunately, I would find her very difficult to live with. Meanwhile, Murphy is on the couch, looking at his captured forever beetle, which is, is still barely moving. To be honest, I'm not quite sure what I was expecting, because if it was done in CGI, it would just look terrible. So I guess I'll settle for barely mobile puppet.
Where's Lieutenant Brogan?
Over CGI bug.
He's in the interrogation room, Captain.
And here's a subplot that's interesting, because it doesn't seem to... It doesn't really go anywhere that I recall. It's been quite a while since I've seen this episode. But Brogan is interrogating a man named Armory Wolf.
What the hell's he doing? Whispering, sir.
And I love that they've turned down the lighting in the interrogation room.
Wolf's attorney. On his way.
Also, Podley's office looks quite dark as well. But again, I love with this show, when you have a scene of... like that, Fredo and Podley, just the animatronic alien characters talking, no humans, and I believe it. I completely buy into the Creons and the Tarns.
Scared? I don't know what to do. I'm sure he's hiding. Oh no, please help me! He's here, he's hurting!
And this is one of those moments where I think the show aims to be... this is very much the Hill Street Blues, very real, very nasty...
He followed the
off-screen villainy.
And almost killed her for 27 credits.
Yes, this chap Wolf is
your drugs,
pushing drugs to kids. And some of those kids do naughty things to poor ladies.
I have no legal right to talk to my client without counsel present.
And here's his lawyer, Drover Pike. I remember that's his name because he's featured on the Making of Space Precinct documentary. You see them putting the paint on the head.
Yeah, well, lucky for you, your client's been giving me the silent treatment. But lucky for me...
And Wolf, I don't think the makeup on the Wolf character, it is a mostly human face with a bit of forehead stuff. It's not all that convincing looking, but I think the actor nails it with a very, very cool vocal performance.
Then ask. You ever seen this boy before?
No.
So you never sold him drugs?
He answered the question, Brogan.
You ever sold drugs to kids?
Oh, of course not.
Have you ever sold illegal drugs?
That's it. You want to go fishing? Do it on your own time, Brogan. You heard my client, Captain. Now hear me. This is the third time in a month that Brogan's badgered Mr. Wolf.
Sneaking up behind him and asking him what the time is. It's just not on.
Cops in line. Now, either press charges or open that door.
Podley's not enjoying this. But he knows he can't really hold Wolf. So that's it. We've got to let him go. Yeah, it's very nice that they've turned down the lights for this. Particularly, it casts a lot of shadows with the few lights that are left.
Bothers me. It's hers.
Please, somebody help me. I was followed home, and there's a man in my apartment. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, this is where Brogan comes off sort of like... almost like he's a cop from a different series entirely.
The cemeteries are full of people who got closer to Armory Wolf. Call it a day, Lieutenant.
And again, it is an interesting element that they've included here. Something that does happen, I would assume, with a lot of police work. There are some times where you just have to kind of say, okay, we know, but we can't prove it. We've got to let them go.
Is this it, Slow-Mo?
You are looking at the complete file, Lieutenant.
Well, there's nothing here I can use.
Look, Brogan, nobody's blast-proof. Not even Wolf.
No.
What about Vinny Artak?
Your paperwork.
I seem to recall that was his slogan. And yeah, that was the last time I think we saw Space Precinct on the Randomiser. In fact, was Divided We Stand way back at the start of the year.
They just found him in an alley, OD'd.
What was he doing in a jail?
Oh, dear.
He made bail.
With what? He was broke.
Yeah.
Armory Wolf. And I showed him the kid's picture.
Don't blame yourself, Brogan. If Wolf wants to nail someone, he doesn't need a picture. Not this boy's. Not yours, so be careful.
I love the way they make this Wolf character seem very threatening. It's implied he's got this big organisation when really the character is A, quite short, and B, quite sort of immobile. Again, nothing against the actor. I think he plays it very, very deadpan and very restrained.
I'm not afraid of barroom rules, Haldane.
So, Brogan and Haldane, and Took and Castle. Fredo's given them a choice. There's a missing bug or a barroom brawl.
You afraid of creepy crawlies?
Brogan and Haldane have got the bug operation. Dexcore, that's where this is. And who are we going to meet at Dexcore? There's a Tarn scientist named Dr. Long, voiced by...
I didn't know you had a thing about bugs.
I don't. They got a thing about me.
Fourth entry. No prints. Security guard missing.
Inside job?
Well, I suppose the forced entry could have been faked.
All right, get on an APB on the guard.
Right.
Officers, I'm Dr. Long, project leader for Dexcore Pharmaceuticals.
It's David Graham, in case you needed any introduction to that voice.
The bug was the project.
And I'm recording this just a few days after his 97th birthday. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be about a month later.
Close to extinction. The female that was stolen was the last of its kind. It had only recently been discovered, emerging after 17 years underground.
Wow, 17 years.
And I love Haldane's... At first, I used to think he was sort of feigning interest, but actually now I look at it, I think he's genuinely interested in all this in a way that Brogan isn't, and it's quite refreshing. I like that they've presented our two regular cop duos with a choice of barroom brawl or missing bug. The girls take the brawl, the boys have the bug, which is the last thing you'd expect, and we find out Brogan isn't too keen on bugs. But Haldane's quite interested.
You're about to witness an experiment conducted under my supervision.
And this just shows how wonderful this and important this bug is.
The subject of the experiment. Senna was born without the complete fingers of the right hand.
Oh.
The experiment involved the application of a drug we developed. We hoped it would stimulate cell regeneration.
Did it work?
Just watch. 5 days.
Ooh.
10 days.
Oh, there's a finger.
15 days.
And she's got a whole hand.
My God.
We found the drug in the womb of Terrahawks eternicum.
The forever beetle.
If only we could learn how to synthesize the chemical.
Could regrow the hands of a lot of little girls.
They already have.
So that's why it's important to get the bug back. Meanwhile, over at the Sports Pit Bar, it's the usual crowd of very badly made up human extras and familiar alien masks that you know have no mouth mechanisms.
No started this.
Well, they just call them jelly heads.
Men can be so aggressive.
Along with Crispin Merrill's familiar nightclub theme. I think this was heard in Predator and Prey, and here we go.
Isn't it about time you redecorated?
Is he the one who started it?
I was going to say earlier that I enjoy the performance of Armory Wolf precisely because it isn't dubbed. And it's like, okay, they've learnt their lesson on the dubbing, but no, because here we have this chap named Thunder Cole.
You doing anything later?
Who, that's clearly not his voice, so...
Got a date with the jail cell.
I giveth a point, and I taketh away a point. But I also kind of give a point back for casting David Graham as the voice of Dr. Long. Another unusual shot of the station house there, the cruiser landing, looking vertically up at the thing.
And destruction of private property.
Name.
What's your name?
Sergeant, tell them my name, please.
Thunder Cole.
Hey.
And I love... Oh, wow. That was a... There was a human extra there, and I apologise, this sounds very cruel. He looks less human than some of the aliens. But I love the animatronic facial reactions on Fredo and Orin and Romek here at the sight of their hero, Thunder Cole.
Sorry about this, Thunder. There's been a mistake here.
What's going on here? Who is this?
Thunder Cole!
Oh, big deal.
And I suppose it's kind of sort of, stereotypical in the sense that all the boys know who this sporting hero is.
Hey, Thunder Cole!
And the girls don't. But I think it's worth it for Castle's total disinterest in who and what he is.
Look, just let me apologize on behalf of the 88.
Don't you dare apologize for me.
This is Thunder Cole. He's the greatest slam ball player in the history of the game.
If you'd be so kind.
I don't think that'll be...
I've often wondered, actually, if that voice of Thunder is possibly Wayne Forrester. I don't think it is, but sometimes there's little moments, little inflections in the voice that makes me think maybe it is.
Patrick, you've said it yourself. He always overstays his welcome. I mean, he's a freeloader.
No, that's what you say.
Freeloader?
Look, I know he's your best friend, but
Honey, I never said he was a freeloader.
You implied it. Look at us. We're arguing again.
I'm not arguing.
Patrick, please. I just want him to stay somewhere else.
All right, I'll talk to him tonight.
Why don't you have a vote?
Wait that long.
What?
Hey, buddy.
Hands up all those who want Sally to stay.
It's okay, Fredo. Let him in.
Have fun.
Hey, Murph, what are you doing here, man? I need a favor. I've got some meetings in Demeter. I was wondering if I could borrow your hopper to get around.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Look, we gotta talk.
I promise I'll only be a couple hours. Promise.
Who's that guy? Tommy Murphy. He's staying a few days at our house. We grew up together. School, scouts, sports. Best halfback I ever saw. Best man at my wedding. Best friend.
Ooh.
Oh.
Haldane takes that as well as you might expect.
What a hero.
That's why he's never been mentioned before.
I saw him about 3 months ago.
And this is one of my favourite Oren and Romek moments.
Yep, he was brilliant.
What a player.
Absolutely brilliant.
I modeled myself on him, you know.
Why don't you get a life, Oren?
What? I'm only saying.
It's very in keeping with the character. Oh! Explosion! And here we go. This is not the first time we've seen the station house's crack fire response team. And of course you can't see the explosion, you just see a bunch of extras with fire extinguishers. No! And of course it was Brogan's hopper! Oh no! Only a week or two after he got one to replace the one that was destroyed in the fire within, I believe. They do go through hoppers, the Brogan family. But here's a lovely scene.
Liz is asleep. Matt's pretty restless.
And again, this is where I give Nancy Paul just the benefit of the doubt. I always say my problems with Sally are not with her, because in moments like this, she really shows she can deliver the goods.
He'd ride his bike down a flight of stairs at school.
And so does Ted Shackelford here. This is just some wonderful stuff. And it's all in service of a character that is supposedly so important in Brogan's life and yet has never been mentioned before. He's even got a photo of them on a fishing trip.
Dare him to do it, and he would.
Which obviously has never been seen around the flat before.
When we got older.
I noticed recently there's a similar photo in The Fire Within of Brogan, Sally, Matt, not Liz, and several other people. I've always wondered who those people were.
For the first time I was scared. Then one day I dared him to get married. He said he would. When he found another you, it was his way of saying he was never going to get married. And it was his way of saying, if anything ever happened to me, he'd take care of you.
These two are so invested in these roles, it's wonderful.
That bomb was meant for me, Sal.
And also we have Matt watching from the doorway, looking very Rick Astley-ish, I've got to say. But he also looks a lot older than when he started the series, and that's a theme this episode touches on.
Well, the good news is the device was made by an amateur. It was a lousy bomb.
How good does a bomb have to be? Isn't good enough to kill somebody good enough? Or does it have to score style points, too?
Back off, you know what I mean.
No, I don't.
A good bomb, a really good bomb, doesn't leave anything behind. Nothing to examine, nothing to identify, nothing to piece together. I'm sorry about your friend, Lieutenant. I truly am. But this bomb is the best chance we've got to catch the guy who did it.
And again, that's another moment there that feels very nice and very real. I like the fact that Carson puts his foot in it there with Brogan, just through his own enthusiasm for his job. And you can understand his sort of...
And too angry.
Defensive response there, because, you have to remember Carson is in charge of, on this station, the medical department, the science department, the engineering department, and now the forensics department. Any department that... doesn't have anyone in charge, I'll just give it to Carson. He doesn't have anything else to do.
Alone. You can read their report.
Okay, Brogan. You got it.
Oh, so Brogan's going to get his one-on-one with Wolf?
Mr. Wolf, I don't advise this.
Back off, I'm going to Grandma's house.
You just made the biggest mistake of your life.
And I also like with this actor is he keeps running his tongue across his teeth and his lips.
Number 3, you got sloppy. You left a trail. I'm going to get you, Wolf. It's called payback.
Oh. But...
If you think I'm the only person who wants to dance on your grave, you're dumber than I thought. Number 2, I don't leave trails. Look for someone who does. And number 3, you ain't worth the risk to kill.
And he's right. I love that Brogan just goes completely down the wrong track here.
Won't know what hit you.
And Mr. Wolf, oh, he does that little friendly slap on the shoulders. Yes. Again, it's moments like that that make me really appreciate that character.
Here's the rest of the list, Lieutenant.
Whoa.
I didn't realize you were such an unpopular guy.
Thanks. I needed that.
What do you got?
Enemies. Hundreds of them.
You rule out Wolf yet?
Yeah, for now. Anybody on...
So it could be anyone. It could be, I don't know, Mas Mahag.
Orin, look who's here.
And I love this as well, this sort of bigging up moment for Orin.
Listen, I want to thank you again for what you did. You'll be my guest at Saturday's championship.
Whatever he did. I guess he let him off?
Hey, thanks to the O-man here, the sports bet dropped all charges. Me and Babs kissed for the cameras. Great publicity.
So you're a hero now.
Wow. So Orin goes down to the sports pit and sorts everything out.
If you're going to try to use those tickets to apologize to me, you're wasting your time.
And Haldane's keeping an eye on Thunder Cole flirting with Castle here.
Pointless, primitive, and idiotic.
Whoa. There's no call for that.
The lady's entitled to her opinion, which I respect. Would you, let me apologize to you over dinner at Flax?
I'll use my own voice. I love all the alien extras in the background whose clearly their mouths don't work, their eyes don't even move. They look so lifeless. And of course Castle looks over at Haldane and she says...
Okay.
Woo! Hey! And everyone's very happy.
I'll see you later then, huh?
Except, of course, for Haldane.
All right.
Hey, he's a friend of ours. We got tickets to the game.
Aw. Good old Orin and Romek. Yeah, and here's Zill as well.
I don't know what you're talking about. Mom and Liz will be home soon. Squawk at them.
So Matt's on his own. Yes, this is an interesting... and it's rare, actually, that I feel genuinely invested in Brogan's children. It happens more with Matt, I think, in episodes like this, and also Body and Soul. But it's interesting that he starts the series very irritating. I mean, they both do. With all his, orbital, far out, blah, 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 blah. And this is a far more interesting and believable and mature way to push the character. He's home alone while these two thugs have broken in through the garden windows. Zill is giving them a piece of her mind.
Try the rooms down here.
And while Matt's in his bedroom, well, he's got to hide because they're going to search the whole house. That's it, sneak under the bed. And it's very, very tense. Oh, yes, it's a very tense moment. And then they throw a tarantula at him. And it's, you really fear for Matt at this point. And that's something I never thought I would say. I don't really care about the character, except in moments like this. Where not only has he got people tearing his room apart, he's also got a poisonous tarantula coming right for him.
Hey, what was that?
I don't know. An airlock?
We're out of here.
It's the traditional Creon thug duo of Croaky and Dopey. We've heard those voices in several episodes previously. And speaking of things we've seen in several episodes...
I'm not going to miss a thing, I promise you, Lieutenant.
I know, you're right. I'm sorry. They didn't take anything valuable.
Carson's turned up to the Brogan household with a forensics team. At this point, the Brogan household has been broken into so often...
We'll get them, sir.
...that Carson must have a special unit just for Brogan household stuff. The place has been trashed and invaded so often. Every officer on the station must know the layout of the place by memory.
Look at them.
And speaking of memory, here's the Tarn photo fit artist who turned up in several episodes, never saying anything. And there's a shot. It's lifted from Enforcer. There's a shot of the station house, and they reuse it several times throughout the series. It's of the station firing its forward thrusters and starting to fall out of orbit. And it reminds me of that thing I've mentioned in New Captain Scarlet, Engineering Emergency.
Excuse.
That they just keep reusing, and nobody seems to remember what that shot was actually for and what it means. The station is currently falling out of orbit, that means.
I don't know. I left just before...
And instead we're discussing the failure that is Castle and Thunder's date.
I told him I didn't appreciate being stranded at the table. He said I was too uptight. I disagreed. And then he told me what he thought I needed. And that's when I got up and slapped him.
You hit Thunder, Cole?
Again, I love the reaction of Rowan and Romick, but I also like the reactions of a lot of the human extras there. There was what appeared to be a criminal there was laughing along with a police officer.
Terrible, okay?
Why are you so uptight?
Uh-oh.
You know what you need.
And I think this is something Richard mentions in his book, Space Precinct Unmasked, available from the Gerry Anderson store and all good retailers, that Castle is stamping these pieces of paper with a red light. And, Took is passing her pieces of paper and Castle stamps them with a red light. And it's such pointless work for two people.
Tell you what, we'll ask him when we catch him.
I hope he may regale us with that story at the end of this randomizer, because of course I forget, even though he mentions it all the time, I forget when I'm actually watching this. Oh yeah, Richard, co-host of the podcast, was there through all this. And we've caught our two home invaders, or Haldane's grabbed one of them. They were staying at a hotel on Cheap Street. That's what I'm going to call it, because it did look quite cheap.
Hey!
That's Dopey nailed to a communication post. Croaky has always found his way into a blind alley. No way out, no matter how much he pounds on that door.
Freeze! Get out from there! Do it now!
And this is something I like with Brogan, and we rarely see it to this extent. I think we saw it in Time to Kill, where Brogan is so angry.
Crashed my home, scared my kid, and killed my friend.
Because the threat got so close to home and so personal. You really think he's gonna blow this guy's head off.
Easy, Brogan.
Stay out of this.
And even Haldane this has gone beyond good cop, bad cop. This is, we've got to stop Brogan before he murders the suspect.
Didn't find what we were looking for.
What was that?
I don't know. Some bug or something. A beetle.
The forever beetle?
Yeah, that's it. Your friend, Murphy, he had it. He already sold it to our client, but he died before delivery.
You telling me Tommy Murphy had the forever beetle in my house?
I told you, it wasn't there.
Who was your client?
Oh, man. I can't tell you that. Oh, all right. It was Anderfandom.
It's number 2 to Dax score in their main competition.
Oh, so we have
I'm out of here.
Rival pharmaceutical companies. Which means it was nothing to do with Mr. Wolf at all. Another interesting shot there of the space suburb.
I'm here.
In almost total darkness with a couple of spaceships approaching it.
Matt?
Anyway, Sally's home early. Probably had a busy day of...
Oh, dear.
...inwardly complaining to herself about everyone and everything. Not being up to her satisfaction, including Matt's room here. Yes, it is quite a mess. I don't know where the tarantula's gone, but what does she find in the drawer?
Wow, a gun!
With a clip in it. And again, this is what I mean when I say they take the Matt character in a very interesting direction here. That is not... This is not something you would expect to see in a family-orientated or kids-aimed show.
Meet Nardo and Ruff, homewreckers.
Nardo and Ruff. Oh, okay. I prefer to call them Dopey and Croaky. I love I love that Croaky has a moustache. Oh no, Dopey has a moustache.
When you're done with those two, Fredo, can you check the bank accounts for Xanapharmix? See if they made a large cash withdrawal.
Yeah, very, and I find it so difficult to talk about this because I don't want to give the impression that I admire what Matt has done.
And sells it to the company.
And I think, to the show's credit, they don't present it as something, oh, he's done the right thing here. It's not a good thing, but it's an understandable thing.
Partner in this, sir.
And again, shows that this is a kid who's growing up in a very dangerous environment.
It's a bank statement from Xanapharmix. They made a 500,000 credit withdrawal the day before Murphy was killed.
I checked out the bloodstains from your hopper. We got a match. You won't believe it. It was Vint.
Hoot?
Who's he?
Yeah.
The missing security guard from Dexcorp.
Ah, the one who got bopped on the head.
Was in the hopper when it exploded. Not Murphy.
Murphy's alive?
And he somehow dragged Vince's body up to the station and nobody noticed him dragging it into the cargo bay and loading it into a hopper?
What are you doing with that?
Oh, God.
I found it in Matt's room.
Yes, I love how suddenly we cut back to just this plot.
I gotta deal with this.
You're gonna deal with me first.
And again, this is... I said it before.
Times I've talked to him about...
This is not Sally moaning for the sake of moaning, for the sake of being Sally.
He bought it because there are people out there who can come into our house, into our lives, and hurt us, or kill us.
It's very rare that she...
And he's not about to let that happen, not when he can do something about it.
Can empathise with another character.
She's willing to die for you, or kill for you. I'm not angry at him for that.
It's so... As I said, I don't want to give the impression that I admire what Matt's done, because I really don't, but I admire the show for taking this very, very mature idea and throwing it into a show that they know they're going to be pushing to kids quite heavily. And I just love that shot of Brogan picking up Matt's soccer ball and thinking, oh God, where did the years go? You can see it on his face while Matt sleeps. He's just... Where did my little boy go? It's very brave and very surprising that the show would do this. Along with that familiar sad family moment music.
Murphy didn't fake his death so he could take the money and run.
I agree. He faked his death so we stopped looking for him.
Exactly. Because he needs more time.
More time for what?
To get more money.
To kill more security guards.
More money? From who? Anderfandom. They're a little short of cash right now.
Could try Interchem.
We've seen their bank statements.
They're apparently still going after their
They could afford it.
CEO's head exploded.
In the first place.
Deck score. Our old friend Dr. Long.
Why sell it once when you can sell it twice?
Aha.
Yeah, well, some friend, this guy, could have faked his death 100 different ways and not involved you.
Nah, he wanted me to see him get killed. I'm the perfect witness. If the police say he's dead, he's dead.
Yeah, he makes the bomb look like it's meant for you to throw us off track. Smart.
And all the time he's sleeping at my house. And I can't figure that out. Why'd he stay the night? He could have still come by the station and borrowed the hopper.
Cheaper than a hotel room?
Yeah, it was a move. I've known Murphy a long time. He never wastes a move.
Did you see the look on his face when you brought that stamp down on his hand? Tarn males are so different. If they feel something, they say it. I don't understand human male emotion at all.
Oh, Took's third eye mechanism opened briefly there.
Got another barroom brawl at the sports pit.
Hey.
Your first dibs.
Let's go to the sports pit again, why not?
Oren, what do you got?
All right, Lieutenant, here it is. Dexco Pharmaceuticals didn't make any kind of withdrawals within a week of Murphy's so-called death.
You're kidding.
But they made a whopper this morning.
Oh, Oren's doing some detective work in addition to helping his friend Thunder Cole at the sports pit, and here we are again.
Turn around. Right, move it. Hands on the bar.
Ah, you're wasting your time.
It's the same old collection of
I tell you guys
misfits and weirdos among the extras.
the other night.
And of course Thunder Cole, who has nothing better to do than hang out in this bar having fights.
A little uptight. And we all know what she needs.
Ooh.
You do, huh?
You better believe it, baby.
Oh dear. He's so smarmy, him and his monobrow.
And you're the one who'll give it to me?
If you pick the lucky number.
Janie?
But we now get to see how he treats women.
Come on, sure.
Not well. Yeah, it's I don't think they really needed to do much to make this character so you know make the audience hate this character. So the fact that they go to such extremes of, hey, he slapped this woman around until her face is covered in bruises.
What else to do?
Might have been a bit much.
You destroy the beetle. I couldn't bear that. So I got the money.
What did you agree on?
Why, he's bringing it here in half an hour. Look, please don't interfere. I just want to get that beetle back.
And of course, ultimately in this episode, he doesn't get the beetle back, which is a shame.
What rooms did you find Murphy's prints in?
Hallway, living room, dining room, kitchen, Matt's room. All over the closet door.
Okay, thanks. You thinking what I'm thinking?
Yeah, the bug, it's in the closet.
Yeah, like I said, Murphy never wastes a move. He's probably on his way there right now. Matt's not home from school yet. All right, you stay here in case Murphy's already on his way down.
How to get out of its box? It must be here somewhere. You must have seen it. Did you take it out of its box?
I told you I didn't know it was in here, Uncle Murph. Look.
The tarantula could have eaten it. What happened to the tarantula? I have no idea.
They tore everything apart. I must have gotten out.
It didn't disappear into thin air. It's got to be here somewhere.
Uh-oh.
I'll help you look.
Stay! Right! Where I can see him. Don't say a word.
And Murphy's on the point of flat out strangling Matt. This guy's gone full ham. But luckily...
Leave the room, son. Shut the door. Call the station for backup.
Yeah, Brogan's arrived just in time.
I trusted you, Murphy. I cried for you.
I got into an argument with my wife over you. Well, I would have had an argument with her anyway, so it doesn't matter, but he's almost on the point of tears there. And yeah, the Forever Beetle has escaped. Oh no. Oh, there's that same shot of the cruiser's landing that I mentioned earlier.
Contributions to the department's insurance fund. They haven't gone for naught. You're the proud owner of a brand new hopper.
Well, let's see how long you keep this one before you blow it up.
I know how tough this was for you.
Ever since we were kids, I made excuses for him. I let him get away with all kinds of things because we were friends. He counted on that.
Well, and that really seems to be the core of this episode, is the main plots of the Murphy plot, the Thunder Coal plot, the Forever Beetle itself, Dr. Long wanting to use it to help people regrow limbs. He won't do that anymore because the Forever Beetle is not in his possession.
Sergeant, but I'm going to count my money.
Oh. One of the female extras got...
Need some tickets? Did you hear some?
Got dubbed there. I think she gets a line here as well.
Bag making a lot of noise.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Do you want some tickets for tonight's game?
You gotta be kidding.
I take it that's not her own voice.
No.
I tend to assume... Oh.
Witness.
Haldane's sitting on a keyboard. I love that in sci-fi shows where people come and sit on control panels. I think Commander Riker does that quite a lot in The Next Generation. He will just sit on, random consoles on the back of the bridge and nothing ever happens.
That's it? I thought she'd at least have dinner with me.
I guess that qualifies as another assumption.
And yes, this episode was also... when they reshot Scene for Illegal. You can tell by Haldane's hair in that one scene where they open the power junction box.
Makes me feel good too.
Ah, tuck-in time.
Dad, I'm sorry about the gun. It was really stupid.
No, it wasn't. It was dangerous and it was illegal, but it wasn't stupid. You were just reacting to a situation you should never have been put in the first place.
I like that reminder, as this is not just a, generic American teen kid. He's in a very dangerous environment. He might do things like this.
Sometimes get rewards for being brave.
Oh, of course he wants something out of it, though.
Yeah, I guess we could spot you a few extra credits this week. As long as you clean up this desk.
Ooh, clean up the desk.
Good night.
Oh no, I can't talk. My desk is quite a dump at the moment as well. I've got a Konami SPV and some headphones and a battery pack, various receipts. Yeah, I could do with tidying up my desk, actually.
What about you? You okay?
Well, I think about Murphy being in prison for the rest of his life. And I think I'm really lucky I got you guys.
And then the next time I get into an argument with you, I'm going to think prison maybe isn't so bad after all. So, everyone's off to bed. And up on a little eagle on the wall of Matt's room, we see the Forever Beetle has turned into a beautiful Forever Butterfly. Again, CGI. It reminds me a bit of Leica, actually, from Lavender Castle. And it comes and sits on Matt's pillow. Well, all those children won't be regrowing their limbs, but luckily the Forever Beetle is going to live, butterflies live a very short life, don't they? Well, it's presented as a happy ending, but I'm not sure it really is. Anyway, that was the Forever Beetle, and I kind of like the way that the show has become far more mature than perhaps most people give it credit for by this point. Thunder Coal is a bit of a, it's another subplot that really only exists to kind of push the Haldane Castle relationship, the will they, won't they stuff, that ultimately we know they won't do anything until the final episode, but some fantastic performances from Ted Shackelford and Nancy Paul. Just the emotion at the core of this one is very real and very genuine. Some nice character moments too. So not the greatest Space Precinct episode, but a strong example of the end of the series. Would have been interesting, really, going into a second series if they'd managed to do a few more like this, really.
Ooh!
Oh, there you go.
It's impossible not to do that, isn't it?
Space Precinct. No, I know. It's one of the best themes ever, really, isn't it? To give Crispin Morel his due. Yeah.
Is there anything you happen to know about Space Precinct, particularly the Forever Beetle, that you might like to share with us, Richard James, as someone who may have been involved with that show?
Yeah, I may have been. It was towards the end of the run, I seem to remember. I do remember it was Peter Duffel, a lovely director, and he did give Lou and I a bit of free rein. I think after one particular scene in a briefing room, I think on the station house, he kept the camera running, and Lou and I did a bit of ad lib for a little while, which ended up in the final episode. So that was fun. Yeah, I think we were all a bit sort of end of term happy by that point. I think we only had a couple of episodes left to shoot, so it all felt very end of school. But yes, happy memories.
Good. Oh, lovely stuff. Well, I'm very happy. Yeah. Space Precinct is a great antidote after Joe 90 last week. So thank you, Chris.
That's true.
Next time, if you hide in my house again, Chris, I'm going to get a restraining order. Okay?
Oh,
good.
Gosh.
Anyway, is there anything else more jolly you'd like to add before we wrap this thing up?
No. That's it for now. Just a plea for the Podsterons to do, as you always do, get in touch. Send us your emails, podcast@gerryanderson.com. Hashtag us on Gerry Anderson Podcast on Twitter. Join in the fun on our Facebook group. Comment on our YouTube videos. Tell the world that you're enjoying the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Why not? Be proud.
Quite right, too.
Tell everyone.
We're very proud.
Yeah.
And so should you be as well. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
quite
proud Podsterons. We will be back for Pod 218 next time. And I think we might have an interview with Chris Bentley next week, or maybe Shaki LeVacant. Who knows? We'll find out.
Oh, okay.
This
all right.
place next week, next time, or something.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
See you then. Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Sorry, Chris's naughty trick really threw me off. I turned into slow-mo for a minute.
Yes, I could tell. Yeah, yeah, I could tell.
He's a very naughty boy.
It's a bit Dustin Hoffman, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, you off to do anything interesting?
What, tonight? Well, I am actually. I'm going out on the town.
Are you?
I'm going to see a play. Yeah, I'm going into
town. What play are you going to see? Can you tell me?
I'm going to see Julius Caesar at the Globe
Oh, my
Theatre.
goodness, you're so cool.
Yeah, it's a bit highbrow.
It is very highbrow.
And you? What about you?
I'm going to Aberdare to see my physio.
Okay.
I think you're winning there.
Great.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Of course, you know what Julius Caesar said to his best mate when he's eaten all the sandwiches?
Go on.
Et tu, Brute?
Right. Time for you to go.
Oh, come on.
I've got to leave now. Bye.
Oh.
Bye.
Oh, all right, then. Oh. Everyone's a critic.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.